Dr. Taba, keep the envelope where it is. Don't move the referral packet.
The man in this footage is Dr. Michael Taba, a board-certified orthopedic surgeon in McKinney, Texas. He's about to feel the full weight of federal fraud charges tied to a $145 million scheme that betrayed every patient who trusted him.
You're interrupting patient care review. Those aren't sales orders.
The pharmacy payments make this more than patient care.
Payments don't diagnose pain. I do. Every patient had a complaint in front
Federal
of me.
workers were billed for creams they didn't medically need.
You're reading outcomes backward. I treated symptoms, not spreadsheets.
He would not resist arrest. But by the time federal agents walked him out of his own orthopedic clinic on West Louisiana Street in McKinney, Texas, 7 years of prescriptions had already generated more than $145 million in fraudulent claims against the United States Department of Labor. Compound pain creams, mixed in the back rooms of 3 Fort Worth pharmacies by teenagers with no training and no certifications, at a cost of roughly $15 per tube. Billed to the federal government for as much as $16,000 each. 1,000 times markup. Every prescription signed by Dr. Michael Taba, orthopedic surgeon. The patients got skin rashes. Taxpayers got the invoice. The number you just heard, $15 in, $16,000 out, sit with that for a second. Now think about who was mixing the cream and who was signing the prescription. Type your reaction in the comments if that ratio shocked you. Subscribe if this is your first time on the channel. I promise you, the full story is worse than the pitch. Michael Taba was born Maran Taba in Tehran, Iran, in the summer of 1964, the second of 3 sons in a household where medicine was less a career than a family expectation. His father worked as a pharmacist. His mother taught primary school. When the revolution came in '79, the family left with what they could fit into 4 suitcases, spent 9 months with relatives in West Germany, and resettled in Fresno, California in the fall of 1980. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment above a dry cleaner on Blackstone Avenue. He was 15 years old the first time he stocked a shelf at the corner pharmacy, where his father had been hired as a technician after his Iranian credentials were declared insufficient by the California Board of Pharmacy. His father's occupational registration, filed in 1981, listed him as a pharmacy technician, earning $6.40 an hour. His mother took work grading English language homework for the Fresno Unified School District at a rate of $8,200 per school year. English was the second language spoken in the home. Michael, the middle son, taught himself the first through library-bound Time Life science books and a small red Sanyo television that only received 2 channels clearly. He graduated from Fresno High School in 1982 with a grade point average of 3.91 and a note in the counselor's file describing him as quiet, disciplined, and meticulous in the sciences. A scholarship from the Rotary Club of Fresno covered his first 2 semesters at the University of California at Davis. He worked overnight shifts at a Denny's on Cowell Boulevard, wiping down tables and refilling ketchup bottles until 2 in the morning, then reading anatomy textbooks in the break room until his shift ended at 6. He graduated pre-medicine in 1986. Medical school followed at the University of Texas Southwestern in Dallas. He arrived in the fall of '86 with 2 suitcases and a used Nissan Sentra that overheated on the drive out of California and had to be nursed across 4 states with a gallon of coolant in the trunk. He would live in Texas for the rest of his life. He legally shortened his name to Michael during his 2nd year of medical school. A classmate at the time later recalled the change as being for pronunciation, though the paperwork also cleared the way for a hospital residency application that the same classmate described, without irony, as obsessively polished. He completed his orthopedic surgery residency at Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas between 1990 and 1995. His evaluations across those 5 years were consistent and, to a supervisor's eye, impressive. Technically excellent, detail-oriented, occasionally distant with patients, but exceptionally reliable in the operating room. He performed his first solo, total knee replacement in the spring of '94. He was 29 years old, and the attending surgeon wrote in the evaluation that Dr. Taba possessed hands, in his exact phrasing, of unusual economy. By 2001, he had opened his own orthopedic practice in a 2-story brick building on West Louisiana Street in McKinney, 40 minutes north of Dallas. The waiting room had beige carpet, a saltwater fish tank, and a framed diploma from UT Southwestern mounted behind the reception desk in a walnut frame he had chosen himself. He hired 1 nurse, 1 billing clerk, and a physician assistant who had trained in the United States Army. He married a pediatric dentist from Plano in 1999. They bought a house in a gated subdivision off Stonebridge Ranch Country Club. 2 children followed, a daughter in 2001 and a son in 2004. For 12 years, the practice grew the way suburban orthopedic practices grow in Collin County. Knees, shoulders, torn labrums, weekend warriors, high school football players, injured factory workers referred by workers' compensation adjusters. He billed Medicare. He billed Blue Cross. He billed the U.S. Department of Labor for federal employees hurt on the job. His name appeared in the Collin County Business Journal twice, both times in profiles about, quote, physician entrepreneurs. He was, by every visible measure, a good doctor. Then in the fall of 2013, a man named Dehshid Nourian walked into his office with a business proposal. The Office of Workers' Compensation Programs, known inside the Department of Labor as DOL-OIG, is the federal agency responsible for paying medical bills when a United States postal worker throws out her back lifting a package, when a Veterans Affairs nurse gets stabbed with a used needle, when a Border Patrol agent tears a rotator cuff wrestling a suspect to the ground. Roughly 200,000 federal employees file claims each year. The program pays out more than $3 billion annually. It has no local claims offices. It has no in-person adjusters. It processes claims by fax, by mail, and increasingly by electronic filing from doctors who have been enrolled as authorized providers. An authorized provider is the linchpin of the whole system. To bill DOL-OIG, a physician must submit a CMS 1500 form, attach a diagnosis code, and certify that the treatment is medically necessary for the accepted injury. The word necessary is doing all the work in that sentence. There is no committee that reviews prescriptions before they are filled. There is no pharmacist on staff at the Department of Labor cross-checking formulations. The system operates on the assumption that a licensed physician, having taken an oath to do no harm, will not certify medically necessary a treatment that is not. Compound creams are the loophole. A compound medication is a drug mixed by a pharmacist to a specific formulation for a specific patient. Cough syrup for a child allergic to the standard flavoring. A topical pain gel with an unusual combination of active ingredients for a patient who does not tolerate pills. Compounding is a legitimate and old part of pharmacy practice, and it exists precisely because some patients need drugs that mass manufacturers do not make. The billing structure is where the loophole opens. Compound creams are billed to insurers not as a finished product with a single national drug code, but as a formulation, ingredient by ingredient. Each ingredient carries its own reimbursement rate. Add ketamine, add gabapentin, add lidocaine, add flurbiprofen, add cyclobenzaprine, add baclofen, add a specialized transdermal base. The reimbursement stacks. A tube that costs $15 in bulk ingredients can be billed at $16,000 per dispense. And the Department of Labor, on the sworn representation of a licensed physician that the cream is medically necessary for a federal employee's accepted work injury, will pay. In the 6 years between 2011 and 2017, DOL-OIG paid out more than $2 billion in compound cream reimbursements nationwide. The Government Accountability Office would later describe it as one of the most exploitable line items in the federal benefit system. Nobody at the Department of Labor was checking whether the cream worked. Nobody was checking whether the ingredients matched the label. Nobody was calling the patients. Nobody was calling the patients. Dehshid Nourian was a pharmacist. He was also, by the fall of 2013, the owner of 3 retail pharmacy locations spread across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. One in Fort Worth on Camp Bowie Boulevard. One in Arlington near the University of Texas at Arlington campus. one in a strip mall off Highway 183 between a nail salon and a Vietnamese PHO restaurant. The signs on the doors read Ability Pharmacy, Industrial Pharmacy Services, and Ability Compounding. All three were controlled by the same corporate entity. All three were staffed lean, and all three had begun to specialize in one product line above all others: compound topical pain creams. Nourian had learned the compound cream billing math by reading Medicare bulletins in 2011. He watched the reimbursement rates climb. He watched compound pharmacies in Louisiana and Mississippi make millionaires out of pharmacists who 3 years earlier had been filling amoxicillin prescriptions for children's ear infections. He drew up a business plan. It was a straightforward one. He would find doctors, pay them for prescriptions, mix the creams in bulk from a base recipe, and bill the Department of Labor. What he needed was signatures. Prescriptions had to come from licensed physicians, and the highest value prescriptions came from doctors who saw injured federal workers regularly, orthopedic surgeons. He met Michael Taba at a Persian community charity gala at a hotel ballroom in Plano in October of 2013. Both men spoke Farsi with their parents. Both had done well. The introduction was made by a mutual acquaintance, a commercial real estate broker who happened to hold the listing on Nourian's next planned pharmacy expansion. Nourian and Taba spoke for perhaps 20 minutes near the coat check. Nourian asked Taba how many federal workers he treated. Taba said maybe 15 a month, 20 at most. Nourian said he had a formulation for chronic musculoskeletal pain that had been producing good results in his existing patient population, and he was looking for local physicians willing to prescribe it. He mentioned in passing that his pharmacy paid what he called a medical director consulting fee to physicians who use their formulations at volume. The first check to Michael Taba, deposited into a personal checking account at Independent Financial in McKinney, cleared on December 9, 2013. It was for $8,400. The memo line read, Medical Director Consulting Fee, November. Taba had prescribed the cream 47 times that month. The volume grew fast. By the spring of 2014, Taba was writing between 150 and 200 cream prescriptions per month. His clinic had adopted a new intake form. Every federal employee, every postal worker, every VA nurse, every TSA officer who limped through the door with a job-related complaint was asked one additional question during their exam. Have you tried a topical pain cream? The answer, according to Taba's medical assistant, was always followed by a printed prescription for the compound formulation, faxed directly to one of Nourian's 3 pharmacies, with the patient handed a slip explaining that the pharmacy would call them for home delivery. The creams arrived at patients' homes by mail. The ingredients were mixed in the back rooms of the pharmacies by 3 teenagers Nourian had hired, all under the age of 19, none with pharmacy technician certification, none with any training in sterile compounding. They wore latex gloves. They followed a recipe printed on a laminated card taped above the mixing station. They mixed batches of 40 tubes at a time in stainless steel bowls with kitchen mixers purchased from a restaurant supply store off Interstate 30. Each tube contained roughly the same combination of ingredients regardless of the patient, regardless of the injury, regardless of the physician's supposed clinical assessment. The cost per tube, calculated by federal investigators years later from purchase records seized from Nourian's supplier, averaged $14.83. Each tube was billed to the Department of Labor for amounts ranging from $8,200 to $16,400. The average reimbursement across the life of the scheme was $11,900 per prescription. The prescription pad said Dr. Michael Taba. The physician's signature was Dr. Michael Taba. The medical necessity certification was Dr. Michael Taba. The bribes escalated to match the volume. By 2015, the monthly checks to Taba had reached $70,000. By 2016, they were routed through a shell consulting company he had registered in his wife's maiden name. By 2017, the total flow of money from Nourian's pharmacies to Michael Taba had exceeded $1.6 million. He bought a lake house on Possum Kingdom Lake. He upgraded to a Range Rover autobiography. He paid off the mortgage on the Stonebridge Ranch house in a single wire transfer. And every month the invoices to the Department of Labor went out. $15 in, $16,000 out, multiplied by roughly 10,000 prescriptions over the life of the scheme. $145 million. She was a 41-year-old sorter at the Amarillo Mail Processing Center, a 19-year employee of the United States Postal Service, and in the winter of 2017, she developed a red, itching rash on both forearms that would not go away. Her name was Karen Fielding. Fielding had strained her lower back the previous September, lifting a package that had been mislabeled as 15 pounds when it actually weighed 63. Her workers' compensation claim had been accepted. She was referred to a local orthopedic clinic in Amarillo that referred her to a specialist in the Dallas area for a second opinion on a possible disc herniation. That specialist was Michael Taba. She drove 5 hours to McKinney in October of 2017. She was in Taba's office for less than 15 minutes. She left with a prescription for a compound pain cream that arrived at her house in Amarillo 4 days later by FedEx. She applied it once a day for 2 weeks. The rash appeared on day 16. It began as a mild redness across the forearms, where she had rubbed the cream into her lower back with her hands. Within a month, the rash covered both arms from wrist to elbow. It cracked. It wept. It bled through the sleeves of her postal uniform and left rust-colored stains on the cuffs. She stopped using the cream. The rash persisted for another 6 weeks. Her local physician diagnosed it as an allergic contact dermatitis, prescribed topical steroids, and asked her what she had been applying to her skin. She showed him the tube. The tube listed 12 active ingredients, none of which her local doctor had ever seen prescribed together. He also noticed the pharmacy label, a Fort Worth address, 300 miles from her home. He also noticed the price, not the copay, which she had not paid, but the amount billed to her workers' compensation claim, printed on an explanation of benefits document she had brought with her because she thought it might be some kind of billing mistake. $15,800. He asked her whether she felt the cream had helped her back at all. She said no. She said she had not really even understood what it was supposed to do. She had just used it because the doctor in McKinney had told her to. The Amarillo physician made a note in her chart and, 2 weeks later, called a friend at the Department of Labor Office of Inspector General. That call was logged on February 11, 2018. It was the 1207th complaint the DOL-OIG had received about compound pain creams in the previous 14 months. It was, according to the case agent later assigned to it, the one that finally justified opening a formal task force. Because the physician on the prescription, Dr. Michael Taba of McKinney, Texas, had by that point signed for compound cream reimbursements totaling more than $26 million, more than any other single prescriber in the DOL-OIG national database. We are heading into the federal task force now. Before we do, if you have made it this far, you already know this channel is different. Subscribe. Leave a comment letting me know where you are watching from. The verdict in this one is going to matter, and I want you here for it. The task force was joint. Department of Labor Office of Inspector General took the lead. Veterans Affairs Office of Inspector General came in when investigators realized that VA-employed physicians had also been treated by Taba and had also been billed for the compound creams under separate federal benefit programs. IRS criminal investigation came in because the money had to be followed. By the summer of 2018, 3 federal agencies had assigned a total of 9 agents to what they were internally calling Operation Backroom. The first move was subpoenaing pharmacy records. The 3 pharmacies co-owned by Nourian produced boxes of paper prescriptions, all faxed in from a small handful of physicians. Taba's name appeared on more than 60% of them. Investigators cross-referenced the prescriptions against DOL-OIG claims data. Every prescription had been reimbursed. The average reimbursement was just under $12,000 per tube. The second move was pulling Taba's bank records. IRS criminal investigation subpoenaed Independent Financial, J.P. Morgan Chase, and a Wells Fargo account registered to Kensington Consulting LLC, the shell company registered under Taba's wife's maiden name. The payments from Nourian's pharmacy corporate account to Kensington Consulting totaled $1.612 million between December 2013 and June 2018. The memo line on every single payment read, Medical Director Consulting Fee. The third move was the patients. Agents interviewed 41 of Taba's federal employee patients across Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. Not one described the compound cream as effective. 19 described side effects, of which 14 were skin reactions. 11 described being confused about what the cream was supposed to do. 6 had thrown the tube out unopened. 3 had never even filled the prescription. Every one of them had been billed by the Department of Labor at rates between $8,000 and $16,000 per tube. The fourth move was the pharmacies themselves. Federal agents executed search warrants at all 3 of Nourian's locations at 7 in the morning on October 9, 2019. In the back room of the Camp Bowie location, they found 3 teenagers. 2 were 17 years old. 1 was 18. All 3 were mixing compound creams. None had pharmacy technician certifications. None had ever received training in sterile compounding. 1 was wearing earbuds. Another was scrolling on her phone with one gloved hand while stirring a stainless steel bowl of gray-white cream with the other. The recipe they were following, printed on a laminated card taped above the mixing station, listed 12 ingredients and 2 possible variations. The teenagers told agents they had been paid $12 an hour, in cash, since their first week on the job. Agents seized the recipe cards, the mixers, the ingredient bulk containers, and the packaging labels. Chemists at the DOL laboratory in Washington analyzed the seized cream against the ingredients listed on the DOL-OIG claim submissions. 3 of the 12 billed ingredients were absent entirely. 2 others were present at concentrations below the therapeutic threshold. The average cost of the ingredients actually present in each tube, calculated from bulk purchase records seized from Nourian's suppliers, was $14.83. The fifth and final move was the wiretap. In November of 2019, a magistrate judge in the Northern District of Texas signed an order authorizing intercepts on Nourian's cell phone. Within 6 weeks, investigators had recorded 31 calls between Nourian and Taba. On a call recorded on January 8, 2020, Taba could be heard telling Nourian, and this is a direct quote read into the trial record, "I signed 42 today. Send it Friday." Nourian responded, "Same amount as last month." Taba said, "Add 10. My daughter's tuition just posted." The indictment came down on August 14, 2020. Federal agents arrived at Michael Taba's clinic on West Louisiana Street in McKinney at 9:47 that morning. He was in an exam room with a patient, a construction worker with a torn meniscus. 2 agents from DOL Office of Inspector General, 1 from IRS Criminal Investigation, waited in the reception area with the office manager, who had been quietly called out from her workstation. When Taba finished the exam, walked out of the room into the hallway, and saw them, his face did not change. Agent Merriweather. "Dr. Taba, federal agents, we need you to step outside, sir." Dr. Taba. "What is this regarding?" Agent Merriweather. "We have a warrant for your arrest. Charges include healthcare fraud, conspiracy to defraud the United States, and receipt of illegal kickbacks. You need to come with us now." Dr. Taba. "There is a patient in my exam room. I need to finish." Agent Merriweather. "Your physician assistant will handle it, sir. Turn around, please. Hands behind your back." Dr. Taba. "This is a mistake." Agent Merriweather. "Sir, I need you to turn around." Dr. Taba. "I want to call my attorney." Agent Merriweather. "You will have that opportunity at the field office. Turn around." He did not resist. He turned. He put his hands behind his back. The office manager, standing behind the reception counter, held her hand over her mouth. The construction worker in the exam room, still lying on the paper-covered table with his knee braced, would tell agents later that Taba had recommended a compound pain cream to him roughly 40 seconds before walking out. Taba said one more thing before the agents walked him through the front door of the clinic. He turned toward the office manager, who had worked for him for 11 years, and he said, "Call Nourian." She did not. She would testify at trial that in that single moment she understood, for the first time, exactly what her employer had been doing for the last 7 years. The indictment charged Michael Taba with 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, 6 counts of healthcare fraud, 4 counts of receiving illegal kickbacks in connection with a federal healthcare program, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. The maximum exposure at trial was more than 60 years in federal prison. His attorney, David Guerra of Guerra and Weiss in Dallas, filed a not guilty plea on his behalf and prepared for trial. Nourian, indicted on the same day, initially attempted to negotiate a plea, but withdrew when the government refused to cap his exposure below 15 years. Both men went to trial. The trial began on January 19, 2026, in the courtroom of United States District Judge Reed Alcala. It lasted 6 weeks. The government called 41 witnesses. The 3 teenagers who had mixed the creams took the stand in sequence. 7 of Taba's federal employee patients testified. An IRS forensic accountant walked the jury through the bank records dollar by dollar, page by page, memo line by memo line. And then Karen Fielding, the Amarillo mail sorter whose rash had triggered the investigation, took the stand. Fielding rolled up her sleeve. The scarring on both forearms was still visible 8 years after she had stopped using the cream. Under cross-examination, she was asked by Taba's attorney whether she could really be certain the cream was what had caused the rash. She said, "I did not have this rash before I used it. I have not had it since I stopped, and I never asked for it in the first place. Your client told me I needed it. I trusted him." The jury deliberated for 11 hours across 2 days. On March 4, 2026, they returned guilty verdicts on all counts against both defendants. Sentencing was held on May 27th. Judge Alcala addressed Taba directly from the bench before pronouncing the sentence. He spoke for nearly 4 minutes. "Dr. Taba," the judge said, "you took an oath. That oath is not a formality. It is the single most important reason the American public trusts physicians to sign prescriptions for medications they will never see mixed and rarely see used." The Department of Labor's workers' compensation system operates on the assumption that a licensed doctor's signature means what it says. Your signature meant nothing. You certified medical necessity for a product you knew was mixed by children in a back room. You collected $1.6 million for those signatures. You watched federal employees, hurt in the service of the country you emigrated to, receive worthless creams that left some of them with permanent scarring. And you did it for 7 years. There is no mitigation that reaches this conduct. The judge sentenced Michael Taba to 102 months in federal prison, 8.5 years. He ordered restitution of $13,420,000, joint and several with his co-defendants. He referred the matter to the Texas Medical Board for license revocation. He denied bond pending appeal. Dehshid Nourian, sentenced 2 days later before the same judge, received 210 months, 17.5 years, restitution of $115 million, a forfeiture order of $405 million, believed at the time to be the largest such order in the history of the Northern District of Texas. Michael Taba is serving his sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution at Segoville, a low-security facility 20 miles southeast of Dallas. His projected release date is October of 2033. He will be 70 years old the day he walks out. The Department of Labor has since implemented pre-authorization requirements for all compound cream reimbursements in excess of $1,000 per prescription. The reform came too late for Karen Fielding, whose forearms remain scarred. It came too late for the 11 other federal employees who testified at trial. And it came $15 in and $16,000 out, one prescription at a time. That case was infuriating, but the one on the right-hand side is somehow worse. Click it now.